My name is Peter Kowalczyk. I'm a retired civil service employee. I used to work for the United States Attorney's Office for the last 7 years of my career. Prior to that, I worked for the Drug Enforcement Administration, and prior to that, I worked for the VA. What I'd like to also recognize is the Chief of Police, Paul Smith, who's back here. He's going to help me to make this presentation on what I think is very, very important to bring across to you folks. That frauds and scams are not something that's happening in Boston or New York or Philadelphia or somewhere else on the West Coast. It's happening here in Littleton, New Hampshire. So let me just get started over here. First, let me just read a couple of articles that I came in with in the last month. Medicare Fraud Strike Force. 91 individuals were arrested. $430 million worth of monies was actually stolen. Another one came in May of 2012. 107 individuals involving doctors, nurses, licensed medical professionals. They billed $452 million in excess of what they should have. Another one over here, senior victims loses $140,000 by financial schemes. How many people have gotten invitations to go and attend a presentation on investments? They'll give you a free dinner or a free trip somewhere. I mean, I get them in the mail all the time. Scams. Better be careful when you go to these little things, because what they're trying to do is hook you and get some money out of you. Another one over here, Portsmouth, a little closer to home over here. August 7th. City resident was scammed out of $11,000 by sending money to somebody because they thought their nephew was in jail in Mexico. And more, I've got more of them. Fraud is happening here in Littleton, as we're going to hear the chief present some of these cases that he's come across. You know, they say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Today, what we're trying to do is give you as much education as we can to give you the information to arm you so that you can try to prevent this from happening. Because if once a fraud occurs and you lose funds, it's difficult to get those monies back. Yes, we're successful sometimes to get some money back for some folks, but let me tell you, with dwindling resources, the federal, the state, the local, funds are not there to prosecute and to find some of these criminals who, by the way, move very, very quickly. This presentation that you're going to be seeing here today, that I'm presenting, was actually started probably around 15 years ago by a gentleman named Harold, who was a volunteer for the Attorney General's office. And the Attorney General's office used to send out speakers just like myself to come out and make these presentations to folks. But as time went along, last year they just simply ran out of funds. They could not afford to do that again. So they asked for more volunteers out of the AARP to come out and do this for them. And so that's how I got involved in it. I was retired, I had nothing to do. I relocated to Jefferson, New Hampshire from down country, and I made it my mission to come out to folks in North Country and bring this presentation. And so pretty much I'm the only guy that's doing it in North Country. There's a lot of folks down south that are doing it to local communities out there. But it's my privilege, because it's my folks here in North Country that I want to make sure that you get this information across. The Federal Trade Commission, folks, did a study. They estimated 25 million Americans are scammed in one way or another every year. 25 million. 1 in 5 has lost some type of funds to a fraudulent scheme. Now, what's interesting about this is that the AARP did a study to find out about these frauds and scams, just how is it affecting individuals, and they found out that 75% never report the crime for a variety of reasons. They're embarrassed, they're afraid that their kids are going to say you don't know how to handle your money. A variety of reasons why they don't report it. So if you look at that 25 million and 75% don't bother reporting it, what does that mean? As much as 100 million people are getting scammed every year. This is a tragedy. It's a tragedy in many, many ways. But just one thing, let me tell you. If you're 40 years old and you lose your bank account, you lose your money because somebody stole it from you, you go back to work, you keep on working, you make some money. Not that bad. Yeah, it's tragic and it's going to hurt, but you can make it. What happens when it comes to a 75-year-old person that's not working anymore? and you lose all your money in your bank. Now you have nothing and there's no opportunity to make money again. This is the tragedy, folks, and it's important that you report a crime when it does occur. A growing number of individuals are senior citizens. Then they actually, believe it or not, target senior citizens. Why do they target senior citizens? Well, they know that, first of all, let me just step back one little bit over here. Seniors, we are very trusting. We believe everything we hear. We trust everybody. We like everybody. We're friendly. You get a phone call, hello, how are you? You carry on a conversation like you know the person. And that's exactly what they want, and they prey on us for that reason. So today what I'm going to try to do is cover some of the different types of scams that are out there. I'm going to talk about how to avoid them, some of the things that you can do to avoid these crimes from taking place and when you becoming a victim. And if you have the misfortune of falling and being a victim, then some of the resources that are actually available over there, although I will put a caveat on that, keep in mind with funding being lowered every single year to our local law enforcement, to our state enforcement, and to the federal government for enforcement actions. And not to mention that it's so difficult to track some of these crimes, the chances of getting money back is not that good. That still doesn't mean you don't report it. You should report it because we need to know that this is happening out there in the communities. Who remembers this gentleman? Mickey Rooney. Remember him? Yeah. He was scammed by his own family, folks. They stole all his money. That's why he's so angry over here. This was, I think, in 2011, he testified in front of Congress how he was ripped off by his own family. His own sons were telling him that you are too old to manage your money, and we will manage it for you. They took his money and they swindled it away. They wasted it. That's Mickey Rooney. So it can happen to the best of us. Grandparent scams, I already mentioned one over here. This is one that's going on and on and on. And people fall for this. Why? Because we are very, very trusting. And you know, us seniors, sometimes we don't quite hear and don't recognize the voice when somebody's calling us on the phone. And when you think it's your grandson that's calling you because you've talked to him, you know, every Christmas and every New Year's and maybe on his birthday, or maybe a couple more times through the year, but you didn't quite recognize his voice, but all of a sudden you hear this voice, Dave's calling, Grandpa, I'm really in trouble. I got arrested in Mexico. Could you help me out? I don't want my parents to know about this. Please don't tell them. Can you help me out? Or you get a phone call saying, hey, Mr. So-and-so, I'm representing your grandchild or your nephew or your niece who's been arrested in Mexico. And I've been appointed as their attorney. I'd like to help to bring your significant person out of jail for you, but you're going to have to come up with some money so I can bail him out of jail. And the grandparent goes right to the bank, takes the money, goes out to Western Union and sends that check out. Never to see it again. I can read you a story from over here where this actually happened to a lady in Portsmouth, or another individual out on the West Coast. I mean, this is just going on and on. It's happening. Please be very, very careful. There was one that occurred here in Portsmouth that I don't have over here, but that person was very, very sharp. When he got that phone call and said that their nephew was arrested in Mexico, and he said, could you come up with $2,400? He said, well, you know, I'd like to do that, but you know, you're going to have to give me a couple of hours because I just can't get it that fast. And he says, can you call me back and tell me where to send it in about an hour or so? And when he hung up with that person, they were going to call him back. He called his nephew and talked to him. He says, no, I'm fine. Nothing wrong with me. I haven't been arrested. I haven't even gone to Mexico. So that took care of that one. He reported to the police department and they waited for that phone call to come through, and I'm not quite sure how that ended up. Here's a good one. I like this one. This is really unique. When I read that one, I said, you gotta be kidding me. What else is new? How many people have septic systems? Yeah, we do. Oh, we have almost everybody has septic systems at home. Well, would you believe that some guy's running around in a van, stopping at the doors and knocking on your doors and saying, hey, were you aware of this new law that was passed in New Hampshire? It now requires that you use special toilet paper. for this Environmental Protection Agency had passed this, and now it'll be a fine if you don't use this toilet paper. And it just so happens that I've bulked up on it, and I can sell you a couple of these rolls or a case of these rolls. The same ones you can buy at Walmart for $8 for 26 rolls. Of course, they don't tell you that part, but we'll sell you these for $40. These are special toilet paper. And people bought them. They've actually bought them, thinking that this was a real thing. It wasn't. Telemarketers. Would you believe that telemarketers are so desperate to make money and to steal money from you that they actually hire folks, have them employed at local banks, pay them a salary, plus they get the salary from the bank, so they can report back to them who are the senior citizens in the community that are financially healed. It's mind-boggling. This actually does happen. They target 56 to 80% of their calls are for senior citizens. Well, some of the things that you have to do is to guard your personal information. Let me ask you, I take medication that's prescribed by a doctor to me, and I go to Walmart and get it. What do I have on that little small vial that comes over there? My name, my doctor's name, the drug name, how often I get it, all that good information. Well, what happens if you get a phone call from Walmart and saying, "Hey, Mr. Jones, we noticed that your prescription is about ready to run out. Would you like to have that refilled and sent to you? For an extra $4, we'll be happy to mail it directly to your house to save you the trip from coming out to Walmart to pick up your medication." And they know your name, they know your doctor, they know what medication you're taking, so you think it's real. So he says, "Yes, please do that for me." Well, all you have to give me is your credit card so I can charge the cost of mailing it. How's that sound? That sounds pretty reasonable, no? Except it's a scam. They wanted that credit card information to steal more money out of you. I'll tell you, I went to a Chinese restaurant in Derry, New Hampshire. And I knew that because somebody did the research for me to find out how this happened. I bought some food, and when I bought the food, I gave him my credit card. The gentleman, when he was walking to scan my card and to pay the bill, he just kind of swiped it by his pants, and in his pants he had a little device over there. Looks like a telephone, but it wasn't a telephone. What it did is it read my credit card, recorded it. By the evening he had emailed that information out to somebody, and wherever they scanned my credit card, and within the next couple of months I went shopping in New York when I was physically in New Hampshire. I spent $5,000 between Best Buy and Old Navy. I'm not quite sure you can spend $2,500 in Old Navy, but somebody managed to do that. So these scams are going on there. Shred stuff. The vials that I was talking about, medication bottles, don't just throw them in the garbage when you're finished with them. Take that label off. Scrape it off so there's no name on that label, no information on that label. Okay? Throw that, then you can throw the container in the garbage. Bank statements, they have all the information that they need to clean out your bank account. Don't just throw those into the garbage. Put them in your campfire, shred them, cut it up, destroy in such a fashion that it cannot be read, so that people cannot steal that information from you. There's just too much information over there. Beware of door-to-door salesmen. First of all, you need a peddler's license if you're going to go from door to door. And there's nothing worse than for somebody to come to your doorstep and ask you to buy something because you are on the spot. You have to make a decision to buy something then and there. And if you have to make a decision under that kind of pressure, it's probably going to be the wrong decision. So don't do it. Be aware of that. Well, my little trash can running over here, that reminds me of dumpster diving, the old-fashioned way. These days they have modern technology. They can scam, they can steal information from you. You don't even know it was missing. In the old days, what they did is they went to the garbage can and stole stuff over there, like your bank statement, your credit card statement, the vials from your pills inside there. Personal experience. When we moved into Loudon, both my wife and myself, we both worked. I used to start at 7 o'clock in the morning, and my wife used to start at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I had 3 boys. So I says, you know, why not ask my kids to take the garbage out? We have to take it to the transfer station. So I said, well, you don't start class until 9 o'clock and 9:30 in the morning. Why don't you take the garbage, take it to the dump, get rid of it, and then go to class? Sounds like an easy thing, right? Well, that evening I get a phone call. We're sitting having dinner, and I get a phone call from Loudoun Police Department. And they have a complaint for me dumping. I'm listening to this guy. I said, what are you talking about? What do you mean dumping? What have I dumped? Well, did you take your trash out to the transfer station? And I'm looking at my son, and he's eating, minding his own business. He knows nothing. And I says, well, let me see. Yeah, my son took it this morning. He says, well, he dropped it off by the gate and left it there. And so we got a complaint from the transfer station of dumping, illegal dumping. Well, how did he find that information? He opened up my garbage can, and in there they found all kinds of stuff with my address on there and my name. From that point on, all they did is call the police department, filed a complaint, and the police department's calling me to find out if I've been dumping out there. It was my son. So there's dumping diving. That's the old-fashioned way of getting stuff. These days, how many people use the internet? Get emails. Oh yes, what an opportunity. They will send you an email with a little link over there, and it's from your bank. They want to make sure they have the right information. If you'd be so kind enough to click on this little link over here, and it'll take you right to your bank. And you know what? When you click on that link, it takes you to a bank that looks just like the one that you think it is. And you start entering your data inside and access your account, because they don't know that. But once you start entering it, guess what? Now they know it. So when you enter it, nothing happens. It kind of crashes. So you scratch your head and you say, well, what happened over here? How can I update this information if this link is not working? I can't access my account. So now you go and you pick up the phone and you call the bank. By the time you call the bank, guess what? They're busy. They're already transferring money out of your account. You've given them all the information they wanted. They were able to access your account using the information you've provided, and now they went on their computers and they accessed your account and transferred money out to wherever they wanted to. It's gone. Okay. Don't follow links. If you want to go to that bank, you know how to get to that bank. You know what the link is for them. You know how to type in Guarantee Savings Bank in there, or whatever bank you use, and they'll take you exactly where you need to go. Don't use those links. They'll capture information from you. Legitimate companies usually will not ask you to provide this type of information, by the way, such as your social security number, your date of birth, over the internet, over an unsecure transmission. By the way, there is a little secret that I'm going to share with you. It's not 100% foolproof, but it does help a little bit. If you look on the top of your web page, and I don't have a copy of it, but it says HTTP, and there's an S by it. That means it's secure. It's a secure network, so they have some kind of an encryption between that receiving party and where you're sending it through. So hopefully that's secure. If it doesn't have that and asking you for confidential information, don't bother sending it through that, because it's not secure and you should not do it. Okay, internet fraud. How many people buy stuff on the internet? Yes, we all do. It's great. You know, sometimes you get a good buy. How about this one over here where you see the advertisements, and I've seen it on TV just not too long ago. I forgot what they call it. What they do is they offer to buy, for instance, an iPhone, which sells for about $400 in the store. You can get it for $25. Sounds like a good deal, right? An iPad, $600 new one of those iPads that they have over there. You can get that for $30. Such a deal. I want to get on that one. Let me tell you how that works. This is kind of interesting. I went on there just to find out how it works, because I wanted to learn a little bit more about that. I didn't buy it, but anyway, I wanted to see how it works. What you got to do is you got to buy a certain amount of bids. You got to bid on these things, and this is really an interesting site. It's almost like going to a casino. There's a lot of bells and whistles, things are turning, clocks are moving, dials are going, you know, we get all excited over here. I don't want to go to a casino because my heart rate goes up too high. I'm afraid I'm going to get a heart attack with these things. I never won anything out there. So I've learned my lessons. But anyway, so you're on the internet. The first thing you want to do, you want to buy that iPad because you know that's the latest and greatest, and everybody's got one these days. At least all of my friends seem to have it. So you want to get one. If you can get it for $30 instead of $600, what a deal. So you're going to buy, they're going to ask you to give them $50 up front or $25 so you can bid. And it costs $1 to bid. Every time you bid, you lose $1 from your account. So you give them your Visa, MasterCard. They take that information, they give you $50 worth of bidding or $25 worth of bidding, and off you go into the races. You're watching that clock moving, because what happens is they're going to have that bid only going for a certain amount of time, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, and people bid. And you see that clock going up, and you see the price going up. It starts at a penny, or starts at $1. And next thing you know, it's at $1.25, $1.50, so you want to bid. Here's use one of my credits over here. You've got 50 of them. You pay $50. So you use one of them, and it goes up another penny or another dollar, whatever it is. And the clock is running, and you get excited because you're seeing that the clock is running out to almost zero. The bids are going to be closed, and whatever the bids closed at, that's who's going to get the iPad. So you're bidding, and you bid once, twice, 5 times, 10 times, 15 times. 20 times, 30 times, now you've got $30 invested in it. And all of a sudden, you go down to zero. Bing! We have a winner. Somebody got this iPad. Somebody did get that iPad. But you paid $30 to bid, and you weren't the one, because somebody else bid it. It just went in at the right time, and they got the prize. By the way, if you are the lucky one, and you spent the $30 and you won the prize, you still have to pay the price for shipping. You still have to pay for the what do you call it, for whatever the bid price was, let's say $25. So you're out $60, $70 on buying this. Still not a bad deal. But that's if you won. What's the chance of you winning? Not too good. So you wasted your money. People across the nation are bidding on this. And they're bidding and bidding all day. Well, it doesn't take too long to clean out your bank account if you keep playing this game with them, and they're getting the money. They all sell that iPad, by the way, that they bought probably for about $450, $500. They've now got about $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 worth of income from all the people with the playing. And guess what? They're up ahead of the game. They made the money. You lost your money, got nothing for it. Not a good deal. Okay, let's see what else we have over here. Foreign lotteries are illegal, folks. I used to get them the Canadian lottery or Jamaican lottery. They're still around there, folks. People are catching on. They don't play them anymore as often as they did, but yet they still do. How do these things work? Well, I'm going to let the chief present one for you, because I think he's got one over here that's just local over here. So, Chief, please bring this one up. This happened here down in your own community.
Well, this is just last week, dated September 24th, and this is the mega lottery in the UK. And this individual won 150,000 US dollars, and they were sent this check for $3,980. And basically what they're saying is in order for you to claim your money, you got to pay all the taxes, fees, and everything associated with that particular prize. So they send this check in the mail to you, and it looks like a valid check. If you turn it over, it's even got a watermark if you hold it up to the light. But this particular check is fraudulent. It's a copy. So what they'll do is they'll say, hey, listen, the check is part of your winnings, and all we need, this one's for $3,800, all we need is $2,000 of that check to help pay for these fees so you can get the rest of your money, the $150,000. So you cash the check, you send them $2,000, now you're like, well, great, I got another $1,800 that I can spend until the $150,000 comes in. That's not what happens. Thank God, most of the banks, I'd say 90% of the banks aren't even going to take this check. They're going to say it's fraudulent, because the tellers have the training to say that's not legitimate. But what will happen is, if they do cash it, the bank will call you up or knock on your door and say, guess what, that check bounced. And you owe us the $3,800 $3,900, you owe us that money. And you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I just sent the $2,000 to Britain, to the UK, and I thought I won $150,000, so I already spent the other $1,900 that I got at home. I don't have that $3,900. The bank doesn't care. They're gonna go after you for the money, in most cases, because you passed a bad check. You are responsible for that money. So, and that's happened here in Littleton several times. People here have been victims of this scam. And we feel bad for them, but we don't have the resources to prosecute somebody in the UK. We can't do it. State government, they're getting cut back. The Attorney General's office, the office I think that even handles this is pretty limited, and then the federal government. They have millions of these coming in daily. They probably are not going to investigate somebody who was taken for $3,900. But it all looks real. They got your name on it, your address, telephone numbers, attorneys. Guess what? If you win money, they're not going to send it to you in the mail. You're going to be contacted in person, and even if that happens, I would contact a local attorney, I would contact law enforcement to legitimize the winnings. No matter what. If you doubt it, you contact us. I'll turn it back over to you, because I know you got more.
If it's free, you expect to pay nothing for it, right? So if there's any fees associated with a prize that you're supposed to get for free, it ain't free. You're paying for it one way or another, okay? Okay, pre-recorded telemarketing. There's been some changes over there. They actually built in some protection for us. We're not supposed to be getting as much of this telemarketing stuff. There are some exceptions to these telemarketing folks that are calling us though. If it's, for instance, the politicians, they can still call you, and boy do they call you. I get them. Both the Republicans and the Democrats. I get them both. That's great. So they can call you. Certainly you'd want to get some phone calls too. Who are some of the people we want to hear from? Your doctor's office to remind you that you got a doctor's appointment. You want to get that call. So you don't want to bar all different people from not calling you. The airlines, you're going to go on a trip somewhere, you want to find out there's a delay or something like that, and the recorded message comes through telling you that there's a delay. Those are the type of ones that you want to get. But the telemarketers are not supposed to be calling you, and especially if you went on the do not call list and you registered your telephone number with them, which you can still do. It's supposed to be, they're supposed to look at that list, and then they're not supposed to call you. And I remind them when they call me all the time, regardless of who it is. I remind them of that. Okay, work at home scams. Now, when you go to work, you expect to get a paycheck, you expect to get paid, right? At least that's what I expected to do when I went to work. I didn't expect to go to work and have to buy my supplies, my pens, paper, my business cards, my paper, my envelopes, my postage stamps, my everything else that you need to do. You see all these work at home little things on the telephone poles around. Take a look at them. If you call them, you'll find out how much you have to invest to be able to make some money. Well, that's not a job. That's an expense on your part. If you want a job, it needs to pay you a cash of some type for services that you provide for them. Not that you have to spend a whole bunch of money to be able to potentially make some money in the future. So that's not a good thing. Identity theft. You know, it's so easy. Our information that we have in our back pockets, in our wallets over here, it's so plentiful. It's just, everybody wants it. Everybody wants your social security number. Everybody wants your date of birth. Do they really need that? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'm concerned because Walgreens the other day insisted you give your date of birth in order to get one of their little discount cards. And I deliberately put in the wrong birth date. And then I called them up and thought, wait a minute, this is a pharmacy, I may have to do something. But even those boxes you see, when or whatever it is, what's your date of birth, that's a scam too.
You're absolutely right. Let me tell you another one. You go and buy a microwave or a toaster, and there's a little warranty card inside there. And what do they ask for? Your name, your address. Well, how much income do you make per year? Wait a minute, I bought a toaster. Why do you need to know how much money I make? I already paid for the stupid toaster. Why do you need to know that? You want to know how old I am. Why? Do you not think I can use this toaster? Do I go hunting? Do I go fishing? Why do you need to know that? I bought a toaster. I don't get it. But you know what? Look at those little warranty cards. They ask you all these little questions. That's all a marketing tool. They take that information and they send it out. They sell your information to others so they can bother you to buy more stuff. Medical insurance information. You know, some people take this medical insurance card, the Medicare, Medicaid cards that we have, for granted. You know, if somebody takes that information and uses it and gets services and they're not entitled to it, it may deprive you of getting it. Let me give you an idea how this works. Let's say you got some medication that's on a renewal basis, right? And let's use Walmart over here. And you go back to fill that prescription again, and Walmart tells you, I'm sorry, I can't fill it. It was just filled last week. And you said, no, it wasn't. I just ran out of it. Somebody's used your information and bought that medication on your card. And they paid for it. That's how that works. And of course, it's bad enough that that happens. It's even worse when your doctors over here, nurses and practitioners are overbilling and ripping off the government. Phone call scams. The old-fashioned, well, we already covered the dumpster diving. The new, more sophisticated word, I've already covered some of that stuff. Would you believe if you go on the internet and you type in your name and it comes out for a search, how much information they can find out about you? They can find out how old you are. I don't want anybody to know how old I am. But they can find that out. And if you were willing to pay the $10, $15, or $9 in some cases, or maybe even less than that, you can get all kinds of information. Where you were born, what town, what city, what state. You can get confidential information you don't want anybody else to know about it. It's available online. All you have to do is request it and pay a couple bucks and you can get information on anybody you want. Okay? Not to mention that there's so much free information out there. They will troll, they will search for it on the internet, and they'll find all kinds of stuff about you. Charities. Okay, I'm going to tell you about a personal experience in Jefferson, New Hampshire. How many people know where Jefferson is? Hey, right up the road. Very good. You know, I used to come over here before when I used to work down in Concord for the United States Attorney's Office. I used to come out on the weekends. I'm always amazed how much I could accomplish in a weekend up over here. Now I can't do that in a whole week that I used to be able to do in 2 days, but it's kind of interesting. Anyway, Friday evening, we come up over there and we get started. We usually, you know, whatever we do, we open up the house and we clean up a little bit, get supper ready, and all of a sudden the phone's ringing. I had to pick up the phone and it says, hello, Mr. Kowalczyk? They can't pronounce my name, but they kind of try. Okay, yeah, this is Peter Kowalczyk. How can I help you? Well, we're calling on behalf of the Jefferson Detectives Association. Well, when they said that, I said, honey, can you get me a beer? I got to sit down for this one. This has got to be a good one. You see, in Jefferson, we don't even have a police department. So what detectives are they talking about? But I listen to them. And this guy's going on and on how hard-working our detectives are in Jefferson. I'm listening to them. I'm just having a blast. Keep on going. Tell me more about these detectives. So he rattles off a bunch of things to me. And I'm listening. I says, you realize we don't even have a police department. Goodbye. Click. I got it. Here's another one. Fireman's Fund. I like the Fireman's Fund because I contributed to them. I gave them $25 for a couple of years in a row. Until I learned about frauds and scams and charitable donations. And when I learned, I said the next time they called, which was 2 years ago, they called me and they said to me, would you be like to, we counted on your contribution last year, we thank you very, very much. Would you like to double that this year and perhaps send us $50, and for that we'll send you 4 tickets. Not 2 tickets, but 4 tickets to a concert somewhere on the shore, which I'm not going to go to. I says, look, I'll tell you what I'll do. Why don't you send me whatever it is that you want me to contribute to in writing. Send me the little pamphlet. I'll read it. If I choose to contribute it, I will send me those tickets too, by the way, and I will send you the $50 if I like what you send me. Well, to my surprise, they actually sent me something. So I took the time to read it. And on the very, very back in small print, it said, out of my $25 contribution, $1 goes to this charitable organization, the Fireman's Fund. The other $24 goes to marketing. Is that something I want to contribute money to? No. I'm not here to employ everybody. I'm here to provide money to the Fireman's Fund. That's what I thought I was getting. I thought they were going to make these little comic books for the kids to color in. I remember getting those when I was in grammar school. So I thought they were pretty neat, and I wanted to support that. But I found out $1 of my $25 was going to the old crayon book, and $24 was going to somebody else. So, needless to say, they got their tickets back, and they don't bother me anymore. By the way, the courts ruled that if they spend 99% of their revenues on fundraising and administration, that's still okay. So, what are you going to do? Later on, in these little pamphlets that I have, you will have a place where you can actually go and type in the charitable organization that you would donate to, and you will be able to find out anything and everything you want to know about the organization. How much money they're spending on administration, how much they're spending on the actual charity. Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering how somebody got my debit card number, and I didn't know. I wasn't aware that they had a little thing that they could read your card with. And I had somebody get my debit card number and bought something. They bought a cigarette lighter kit for a car. I don't drive and I don't smoke. And when I saw this on my statement, which came like a day or two later, I called the bank immediately and canceled my card and told them that this, I don't know where this came from, but I didn't spend it and I didn't buy it. It was in Pennsylvania. I haven't been to Pennsylvania in years. But I wasn't aware they had one of those things. I'll be more careful with the card now.
They have little readers that they can read your credit card, but they don't even have to. Some of these cards, like American Express, they have like a little proximity card next to it. You don't even have to physically touch it. Just bring it close to it and it'll read it. It'll read your card number. And so, you know, that's a real problem. By the way, if you do get, how many people review their bills that they come in? Okay, that's very, very good. I worked with a gentleman over there, you know, this goes back about 25 years ago. He never balanced his checkbook. He just paid the bills. He just kept on writing checks. He had no clue how much money he had in his bank. He just kept on writing checks. He didn't know how to balance a checkbook. Nobody ever taught him how to balance a checkbook. He never looked at his MasterCard statement. He just paid the bill.
I just heard on TV last week, I think it was, in answer to a question, this little thing here on calling your card, they have people now that can walk by you and scan that information, and on top of that, take that information and transfer it to another card.
Yep.
And continue doing that. So they have that type of equipment that's available online.
Yep, they actually do. I got scammed that way. I told you about the $5,000 that I spent in New York City in 20 minutes, even though I wasn't in New York City. I've bought a lot of things throughout the country that I never bought. The important thing here is that if you review your bill and you find a charge that you don't recognize, dispute it. You have to dispute it. By disputing it, you don't have to pay for it. They'll do some research. It may take them 30 days, 60 days, 90 days to resolve the problem. Stand your ground. You didn't buy it, you ain't paying for it.
They gave me my money back.
You will get your money
But I
back.
canceled my card immediately.
And they usually will give you a new card, by the way. If you tell them that you
They
can't.
did. They gave me a new card with PIN number, everything.
Yep, they will do that for you. So it's not unusual that they will do that. The banks will try to take care of it because they want your business.
But that won't make any difference if that little chip is in that card, regardless on the renewal instrument, they can still do the same thing, right?
They can. One of the ways to protect yourself if you're concerned about that part, that thing, is they have these little metal wallets, or for instance,
They put aluminum.
that's correct. Yes, exactly. And I'll show you one just how it looks because I happen to have one over here. It's called a protective sleeve. And how many people have what do you call those things? The passports to go to Canada. Anybody have the little small ID cards, the passports like this? Well, if you get one of these passports, they'll send you one of these things, and it's inside there. And the reason they send it to you is because, believe it or not, this passport can be read by just bringing it close to it a piece of equipment that can read it. And that was the big concern with some of these biometric passports that they're coming up with, including this ones, because you can have them read without even physically producing it to somebody. They can read it for you.
All banks should offer those little protective sleeves.
Oh, yeah, really?
Most banks have those.
Oh, that's good to know.
Little things that you put the
Yep.
debit card in.
So next time you're in a bank, ask for them. See if they can give you a couple of them and you can put your credit cards inside there. By the way, not all credit cards they can read that way. Only certain ones that have that RFID chip inside there. So there's other scams. I don't have any pictures of this, but I used to have it where I used to work. But they have actual equipment that they've installed at your ATM machines, where you stick your card in, and as you're sticking it in, there's a camera taking pictures of your PIN code. And they have your PIN code now. And they have a machine that now captures the information as you scan it in that'll read the card. And they've got all the information that they need. And it's so small that you'd never know it. It looks like it's part of the equipment, but it isn't. It's a fraudulent things that they put on there. So we talked a little bit about charities. Okay. Move along a little bit further over here. Charitable giving. I mentioned to you that in this pamphlet that I've given you folks over here, there's some resources over there to go. Please take the time if you're going to contribute money to some charity. Read what they have, what these charities are actually offering, and how much of their funding is going to the charitable, whatever it is that the charity that you're contributing to, or how much is going to administration. There is one that the Attorney General's office is in several different states, and I think the feds are even looking into it, was to help the veterans, the wounded veterans. They were scamming big time. None of that money was going to the veterans. In fact, what they were doing is they were buying all kinds of trinkets that the vets didn't want, delivering them to the hospital and says, here, we want to donate this in the name of charity to the veterans. The veterans don't want this stuff. But they claim that this is what they're writing off, that this is the services that they're providing. So there's a lot of scams going on there, and the only real way to find out if it's a scam or not is to go into these charitable organization sites and find out what your particular charity is contributing towards, how much is going to administration and for administrative costs and for recruiting members and recruiting, soliciting donations. And how much is actually going to the charity. You know, if they're providing so much money in trying to get more money from you, it's probably not a good charity to contribute to. Don't bend to pressure. How many people watch Keeping Up Appearances? Anybody watch Keeping Up Appearances? Only one person? 2 people?
Watch what?
3 people? All right. 4 people? All right. Keeping Up Appearances. You remember Hyacinth?
Oh, yes,
yes,
Hyacinth Bucket.
Mrs. Bucket, yes. Bouquet, Mrs. Bouquet. Well, do you remember the skit when we have these 2 folks over here, Elizabeth, and I forgot what her, David. They were practicing. These folks don't want to go and meet and have tea with Mrs. Bouquet. So, but how do you say no? Well, just like all of us. If you call me, I want to talk to you. We're social people, okay? We were brought up in a time where we're very polite and courteous. So what did they do? They practiced how to say no. How to say no. So how does this work? David picked up a phone. He goes, ding, 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 ding. Elizabeth picked up the telephone and says, hello. Oh, this is Hyacinth calling. Would you come for tea this afternoon at 2 o'clock? And Elizabeth is practicing, oh, no, Hyacinth, I'm busy. I won't be able to make it. Goodbye. Click. Try it again. This is a second time and a third time. And now they says, okay, we got this down pat. All of a sudden, telephone rings. Elizabeth picks up the phone, and what does she says? I'll be right over. So much for this practice. Okay, but the easiest thing for us to do when we're on the other side of the telephone line is what?
Hang up.
Hang up. Okay? It sounds rude and it sounds like the wrong thing to do, but let me tell you, in this particular day and age, that's the right thing to do. Hang up. Yes, ma'am.
I get at least 3 calls a week telling me that I want a cruise for 2 or a weekend for 2 or something like that, and I hang up on them immediately. I don't even listen to them.
That's right. Just hang up. It's the easiest thing to do. Don't engage in a conversation. The longer they can keep you on the telephone, the better chance of them selling you something that you don't want to buy. If they pressure you into making a decision and you can't think through the entire process, believe me, it's not going to be a good decision. And that's the bad thing when somebody knocks on your door and tries to sell you something, because you don't have the time. You're pressured into making a decision at that very, very spot. And that's the bad part. Okay, we're coming almost down to the close over here. There are some websites I mentioned to you. I put some of them up over here. Some are better than the others. But you wanted to check them out and see what you can find all the information about the various different charitable places. Let me see, I thought I had one of those fake checks over here. We do have them, there it is. There's my fake check over here. It looks pretty genuine, doesn't it? This one's made out for $3,845. It's a genuine counterfeit. This particular one is kind of easy. You can really tell quickly that it's a fake. If you look at this number over here, the check number that they have over here, it happens to be the same as a routing number on the check. It never happens. That won't happen. So I mean, some people can tell these real quickly. And as the chief said, the banks, 90% of the time, are pretty good at figuring out which ones are fake, which are not. But let me tell you, I'll just give you an idea. In Lancaster, when I gave a presentation over there, the chief said that in 1 week, 25 complaints came in with these fake checks. That's the ones that showed up. How many didn't come to report it? They threw them in the garbage, or they maybe tried to cash them in. I don't know. But let me tell you, you cash them in, not only is that money it's gonna bounce, and you're gonna end up paying $25, $30, $40, whatever the bank charges for a bounced check. But then you're out on the money if you took money and sent money out to them, as the chief suggested. It's a bad deal. So be careful when you get these checks in the mail, especially if you're not expecting them. If it's something that you won, it's a check that comes into you because of a lottery that you won in the state of New Hampshire, and they give you a check from the state of New Hampshire that you've won this check. Okay, they're not expecting you to pay them any cash in return. They don't. Okay. Debit. Let's see. All right, here's one that's kind of interesting. If you run up a bill and you can't pay it, and you call the credit card company, you say, look, I want to arrange for a payment schedule, but I can't pay what you're asking me for because I just can't afford to pay that kind of money. And you send them a letter and you tell them, that's what you're going to do, and they negotiate with you. They cannot call you back and then harass you. They cannot call you by law. They can't call your employer or threaten you over the telephone, or threaten to call your employer and complain about you, or the bank to complain about you. They cannot do that. It's illegal for them to do that. So you have some rights. They can also not call you outside of the 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. They can't curse at you. They can't abuse you in any fashion. There have been folks, collection agencies that showed up in the hospital asking a patient that's in a bed waiting for surgery because they want to get paid their money. Let me tell you, if you cannot afford to pay it, you can work out a deal with some of these credit card companies that are willing to work with you. Do not have to hire folks to try to help you. If you hire these organizations that they advertise themselves, we'll fix your credit, we'll help you out. What they do is for a fee. They don't do this for free. It's for a fee. They will charge you X amount of dollars to help you resolve your credit problems. And what they do is they set up an escrow account for you where you will be putting money into, which by the way is not free. Not only do you not get no interest on the money, not that the banks give you too much interest these days anyway, but you will pay to establish this escrow account. You will pay for this credit fixing agency that they will charge you to try to resolve your credit things. These are things you can actually do yourself. By the way, they're supposed to not call you if you write them this letter and tell them that you are working out an arrangement of some type. However, in New Hampshire, there is something that says that it has to be done by a third party, like an attorney. If you do give them that cease letter, hopefully it'll work. But in New Hampshire, they can still bother you. You have, for instance, if you are a senior citizen. You can go to the New Hampshire League of Assistance and they will help you out. There's a phone number. It's actually listed in the Frauds and Scams pamphlet over there. You can ask for help over there. How that works, they have volunteers working out of the Pierce Law Center over here. These are students. They'll take all this information and try to help you out. They'll work up the case and present it to an attorney to try to help you resolve these issues. AARP also has set up where they, if you are a member of the ARP, that they have some legal assistance that they can provide for you. There's some volunteers that are working pro bono, and they will try to help to resolve some of the issues for you. This is basically some of the stuff I already covered. You can complain to the banking department, and they will try to work with you. Here's some more telephone numbers, the Attorney General's office. One of the things that I want to tell you, a lot of people make a complaint, fill it out, and send it in, and expecting that they're going to get their money back. The chances of getting your money back these days if you're scammed is not good. It happens from time to time, yes, and it can happen. But I'll tell you, the amount of complaints that they're getting, they just cannot address them all. There's just insufficient people working to be able to resolve all these issues for you. So report it, because they need to have that. They need to know what type of scams are going on. And certainly there's enough of scams going on, and they know that it's coming from a certain area. They may target that particular individual and try to get it and get a hold of them and try to recoup some of that money. The big case that I worked on was a Canadian telemarketing case, and that took, I think, 4 or 5 years to resolve. One of the individuals they had to extradite. It took forever to extradite him from a foreign country to bring him over here. We were very, very fortunate to be able to get, I don't know, $175,000 back or so to some of the citizens in New Hampshire. I don't know how much to the rest of the folks out of some of the other states. But that's an unusual case, and it took a tremendous amount of effort on the local law enforcement, including the Canadian law enforcement in Israel, law enforcement in France, all over the world. It's just amazing how much resources you have to put into it to get that money back. In this particular case, there was several $1 million that was ripped off. I mentioned the ARP has a legal service network. If you're over 60, I told you about the New Hampshire League of Assistance. There's a phone number you can call them to get you help. And there's a bunch of other telephone numbers that are good to have, because they're all handy. So if nothing else, hold on to this, especially the resources that are over there, because if you need it, it's all there. You can find it inside that little booklet. You don't have to go searching on it. Although if you go into the Attorney General's home page and you go for consumer protection, you'll find a lot of information over there that'll be very, very helpful. There's also websites over here, as well as the phone numbers for some of the folks. You can also use the credit unions. If you think that your identity has been compromised, somebody's got your information and stole your credit card, your driving license you lost, or something like that, you can call the 3 different companies. Usually if you call one of them, they kind of share the information with 3 of them, and they put a watch on your information, so that if somebody tries to open up a credit card in your name, they won't do it. They'll first contact you to find out if you're in fact opening it up or not. We kind of talked about some of the stuff that you can do. You can keep a notebook when telephone calls come through and you've told so-and-so that not to bother you anymore, and they keep on bothering you. You want to keep the dates and times of when some of these things occur. Certainly you want to notify the police department if there's some kind of a theft of monies or property from you. You want to be able to provide that information to them so that they can try to recoup some of this loss from you. Do not call list. I've told you about the do not call list. You can go online. You can register online if you want to do it that way, or you can call the 888 number and do that, including your cell phone numbers now. They'll take that too. Although I haven't got any solicitations on my cell phone, not that I recall, you can also put that on the do not call list. There's also other, some are free, some are not free, where you can actually go and ask them to, this is a free service, this is ProQuo.com, to opt out of some credit card solicitations. You know, they're not as prevalent as they used to be. I used to be able to get credit cards without even applying for them. That was kind of interesting. That kind of stopped. They don't do that now no more, but still you get applications, or you've been pre-approved for a credit card, please fill this out, sign this. Make sure you shred those, because somebody else can take that, fill in their new address, and sign your name for it, and they're going to get your credit card with your credit card information, your personal information, and they're going to get that credit card delivered to their new address. They'll spend your money. Okay, some of them you have to pay for. Some of them are better than others. I don't know much about all of them, but I know some of them do work. and so you're welcome to try them if you want to. Limiting access, if you want to remove your name from the national mailing list, you know, these organizations, remember I told you about the warranty cards that you provide? They sell that information to others. If you don't want your information to be sold, you can actually request it in writing and tell them, we don't want to be bothered with this, take us off the mailing list. We don't want any of this free solicitation, and they will, it supposedly will help. So there's 2 different places that you can write to over there. If you're getting stuff that's unwanted through UPS, FedEx, or US Mail, by the way, if it happens through, I think FedEx and I don't know, UPS, I think all 3 of them now, it could be a federal crime depending on how much money is involved. So that's good to know. And that basically concludes it. We've covered a lot of information. We only scratched the surface. I only gave you some of the type of scams that are occurring over here. I gave you some information how to try to protect yourself. Obviously, I couldn't give you everything that, I mean, the book would be pretty big if I tried to do everything, and then you wouldn't remember of it. So I gave you only the highlights. Hopefully what I've done today is at least gotten you to think about this, so when you get that telephone call that you're not expecting, that you can think, I remember that frauds and scams presentation, and hang up. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you guys coming over here, and I hope you learned something. Thank you.
And thank you, Peter. That was awesome, and I really appreciate you coming down, AARP providing this, and the senior center allowing this this particular facility for us to get this information out to you. But I got to tell you, 90% of the scams that he talked about, I've seen here in Littleton. I've seen people taken for much more than $10,000 or $20,000 on these scams, and we cannot recover their money. And that's the sad part about it. So it's programs like this that it's better for us to arm you with the information. It's easier to do that, to prevent these from happening, than trying to investigate them, because these a lot of them are overseas, and we just don't have the tools to be able to investigate these types of crime. Like Peter said earlier, your generation is targeted the most. And it's because you are it's the way that you were brought up to trust your fellow citizens, and you're very trusting, and these people know that and they exploit it. So that's why we're targeting you with this information, because the younger generations, even the people that work for me, everything is why this, why that. They question everything that we do. And in a way, we've armed them with that capability. It's good that they do that. It irritates us because we just say, well, just do it. You should trust me. But it's a good thing for the younger generations to have that little mechanism in their head to say why. But we don't do that. We trust people. So use this information you learned today and ask those questions and say no. But real quickly, a couple other things that are occurring. Some of you have Facebook accounts. I know that a number of you have Facebook accounts, and on your Facebook, a lot of times there's those little games that you play, like what's your favorite ice cream? What's your first car that you loved? The reason those are out there, those companies are extracting the information that you would use for your security questions that you have on the bank, in your banks. Because generally it's what's your high school, what's your favorite pet's name. That information that you're giving up on Facebook, all they need now is, a lot of you might even put your date of birth on your Facebook account, and you have your name and your address, and they'll call up the bank and they'll say they're you, and then the bank will start asking them questions. Well, what's your favorite pet's name? And they'll go to your Facebook account. Guess what information you put out on your Facebook account? So be very careful about that for those of you that have Facebook when you're playing those cute little games online. Your medicine bottles. Hopefully, we're going to be able to solve that problem for you. In the near future, for the prescription medications that you're no longer using, we're partnering up with the Littleton Regional Hospital, and we're going to have a permanent drug drop box at the police department for you to drop off the unused medications that has that information on there for you. You just drop it off in the containers right in the police department, and we'll dispose of it. Not yet. We'll get the information out to you when we do have that. Otherwise, rip that label right off and destroy the label and cut it up into pieces.
You'll never get that label ripped off unless you have little.
You gotta have scissors or something. It is hard. Don't harm yourself doing it, but figure out a way to destroy it. Yes?
What about a magic marker? I used
Well,
a black marker a couple of times.
Black magic markers are good as long as they're permanent and they actually, because you can, sometimes when we're even redacting information at the police department, we'll use the black magic marker, we'll copy it, and you can see through the black magic marker, so we have to do it 2 or 3 times. Just be careful of that, okay? Also, telemarketing, just so you know, the Hampshire Police Officers Association, the Chiefs of Police Association, the Sheriff's Association in New Hampshire, and I believe Troopers Association, all of those associations do not condone telemarketing. So if you get a phone call that says, I'm so-and-so from the New Hampshire Chiefs Association, unless there's a policy change that I don't know about, don't donate any money, it's a scam. And they always like to tear at your heart because it's police or fire or military. Well, again, he gave you the resources in your pamphlets. Have them mail you the information and research it. You can always come to the police department and we can verify that for you as well. One call that you might get is we have a code red system here in Littleton and in Grafton County, and it'll come up on your caller ID as Grafton County Dispatch. That's not a scam, and I want you to answer that phone. And it'll come up and it'll say you're going to receive a code red message. And a code red message is like reverse 911. We can pick a geographic area and get a lot of messages out to a large number of people all at once, and usually it's emergency related or it has something to do with your community. So the code red messages, those are not scams. Be sure that you listen to those phone calls, and a lot of them are pre-recorded. We talked a little bit about hawkers and peddlers. New Hampshire has a hawkers and peddlers law, and Littleton has a hawkers and peddlers ordinance. If somebody comes to your door trying to sell a product, please call the police department. My neighbor, I was at my house having lunch, had somebody, I got the radio call, and I'm like, there's the car right there. I went over, guess what? Not only did they not have a health certificate from the health officer in New Hampshire, they didn't have a town hawkers and peddlers license, and they were probably selling meats that were pretty old that they shouldn't have been selling. They also had extensive criminal records. We need to know when somebody comes to your yard, bangs on the door and says, I'm here to sell the toilet paper he talked about, any of those things, I'm the one that signs the hawkers and peddlers license with the town manager. So I'm going to be aware of whether they're working legitimately in this community or not. So please call and ask, is it valid? Because we will have checked them out. The reason the town has that ordinance is to protect you guys. And then you have the paving scams. Paving scams. They're going to come in, they're going to seal your dooryard, and it's going to be this great price. Usually there's a 200 or 300% markup. Again, they got to have a hawkers and peddlers license. Unless it's a company that we're all aware of, like Central Paving, Dodge Contracting, Blacktop, Pike. Those are established corporations that work in this area. But you'll get the person that knocks on your door and says, hey, we're doing this whole street and we're going to put this down on we're going to seal your driveway, and usually it's mixed so bad that the rain will wash it away and you've just given out a couple $1,000s. Again, call us up if somebody knocks on your door and they're offering you something. Also, a couple other scams that are out there that we didn't discuss, the undercover buyer program, where somebody wants you to go, they're going to give you money to go into Walmart and buy stuff, or different stores. That's generally a scam too. You end up owing somebody a lot of money on something like that. They're generally not, the undercover people when you go into these stores, they're generally not legitimate. If it's not Shaw's that's hiring you as a Shaw's employee to go in and do something in another store, or just definitely check that out. There was somebody in Twin Mountain that got taken for about $30,000 on one of those programs. Also, if you go, there's a new scam that we put it out on our Facebook account. If you go to the town website, I can pull up my address and I can find my map number and my lot number for my property, and it has all the pertinent information that I would need for a deed for my property. That's on the public domain, and everybody has access to it. Now there are letters being sent out that says there's a problem with your deed and you need to send us money to fix it. Usually it's about $80 or $90. But if you're the person doing the scam and you're sending out thousands of these letters, it's quite profitable. And it is a scam. They're going to take your information, they're going to use it illegally. So if you get one of those notifications, contact us. They are illegal. The State Attorney General's office is working on that. Another thing you can do to protect yourselves is that the Grafton County Registry of Deeds has a fraud alert as well. You contact the Registry of Deeds, or you can do it online. You put your information in, and you will get a notification every time there's some activity with your deed. The downfall to that is if you have a name like mine, Paul Smith, anybody, Paul J. Smith, Paul E. Smith, Paul M. Smith, in all of Grafton County, every time there's this transfer of property or anything with a Paula Smith or something close to my name, I get a fraud alert, but I want to know about that. So I get these emails from the Grafton County Registry of Deeds. It's a great program. I would recommend anybody to register your information in there so that you can make sure nobody's screwing around with your property behind your back. The last thing is the credit reports that he was talking about, TransUnion, Equifax, and there's a third one, I can't remember the name of it. I believe the new law is that they have to provide you with a free credit report once a year. Take advantage of that. See if somebody had any fraudulent charges that are going against your credit. Again, the only way we're going to know is if we take this information that Peter's provided us and use it to our advantage and be alert. The last thing I have is anytime you question anything, feel free to call the police department. That's what we're here for. My direct extension's extension 305 at the police department, 444-7711. Give me a call, I'll check into it for you. Because if we can help you out, that's one less report that we have to go forward with and feel bad that we can't help you out and get you your money back. Because like Peter said, in most cases, we're not going to be able to get that money back for you. So thank you guys, have been a great audience. Thank you very much for your time.